Right. So what's happening in Syria? I heard the U.S. shot down a drone, and Biden, who just a couple months ago was committed to keeping U.S. troops in Syria, now doesn't think there's any troops there. So what's happening here?
Yeah, but Biden came out in a meeting with George Stephanopoulos last week. And he's, in America, if you're going to end a war, you have to promise to do more intervention elsewhere. So he's been hyping up the threats ironically, from AQAP in Yemen, Al-Shabaab in Somalia, where he's escalating strikes now at the end of July and the beginning of August. And he also said that there's an increased threat in Syria. And he says, and we don't have let's see, what was the exact quote? He goes, there's a significantly greater threat to the United States from Syria, where we don't have military in Syria to make sure we're going to be protected, which is just incredible because we've been seeing reports coming out recently now, about an official under, I believe, who was remaining anonymous, had told Politico back in late July that the Biden administration has no intention to reduce the military footprint in Syria, that there will be no changes. We had a top Pentagon official of the Biden administration testify to, I believe, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee recently, who said this month, he said the Biden administration is committed to retaining U.S. military presence in northeast Syria. And of course, we have 900 troops there. They're stationed mostly near where most of the oil resources that Syria has are, and they're there with the SDF, the Syrian Democratic Forces. These are the Kurdish forces, ostensibly to fight ISIS, but ISIS has been all but destroyed in Syria. They're mostly confined to pockets in the desert there. This is more about further crippling the Syrian economy. Of course, it's part and parcel of the economic warfare campaign there with the Caesar Act sanctions that attack their engineering and construction sectors. So then this weekend, I believe, the U.S. shot down an alleged Iranian drone. I don't know. The reporting hasn't been clear if it was, a surveillance drone or if it was an armed drone. But they said warplanes neutralized and defeated the drone, and this was over they call it the Green Village Outpost, which is near the Omar oil field. And so, it's just incredible that Biden can come out and say that. But in Daniel Larison's piece about this, he actually cited like a policy paper that came out of the Biden administration where they were actually saying, yeah, we don't have troops in Syria. This is not like the first time that this has been said by an official of this administration. So it indicates to me that they're intending to step up the presence there potentially, or just maintain the status quo. I mean, we know that for political purposes, for Mustafa al-Kadhimi, the prime minister of Iraq, and for Biden's purposes, I think with the fact that there's resistance from the Iraqi militias because of the occupation, particularly after the murder of Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis and Soleimani in the beginning of last year, where the parliament voted unanimously to kick the Americans out of Iraq, and we've continued to stay and continued to bomb Iraq, including these Iraqi militias who, are, at least on paper, are allies. Or were against ISIS. These are the groups largely under the Popular Mobilization Forces, different groups that used to be more or less backed by Iran. It's not so clear these days. They seem to be more independent with their own nationalist interests. But these are Shiite militias who Biden has bombed twice, I believe, in both Iraq and Syria at this point. And so, yeah, I mean, we have this continuous presence there that's provoking retaliatory attacks from Syrian forces, from Iraqi forces, that are from these militia groups. And also, it's putting Americans in harm's way. It's totally unconstitutional. We've bombed Russians in Syria, so the Russian mercenaries, I should say. So it's just incredible that Biden actually said that. We've also seen increasing attacks now all of a sudden from not all of a sudden. I mean, Israel was for the longest time, they've been bombing Israel. Israel's been bombing Syria, I should say, on a nearly weekly basis. But it was, in the last month or so, the Russians had indicated that they wanted to see a significant drawdown in that. And so they were talking about how they were unhappy with the strikes, and they were going to, I believe, beef up the Syrian air defenses, to incentivize, and basically put some pressure on Israel to not attack Syria like this. But and so for about a month, for about 27 days, Israel did not attack Syria, which is very, very rare. And then over the weekend, they bombed last week, 2 weekends ago. They bombed the southern Qantara province, which is borders the occupied Golan Heights in Syria, and they actually dropped leaflets. Most of the time, they're attacking what they call Shiite forces. They'll say like Iran-backed, Iranian forces, basically. And it's not necessarily ever really proven, but they just call any Shiite over there an Iranian, or basically Iranian forces. But that was not confirmed. But usually in this part of the country, they're bombing like Syrian army posts. But in this case, they usually don't comment on the attacks. But in this case, they actually dropped leaflets on Syrian forces telling them essentially telling them do not align with Hezbollah, cooperate with Hezbollah. It will bring you and has brought, or they said it has brought you destruction. And they had the seal of the 210th Division, which operates out of the Golan Heights there, the occupied Golan Heights. And so then a few days later, they bombed actually a military base outside Damascus, and also homes as well, and killed I believe it was 4 Syrian soldiers. Let me confirm that. They killed 4 people who were identified as pro-Iranian fighters. But the Russians say that the Syrian air defenses intercepted 22 of the 24 missiles that were shot. But it looks like they've been testing Russia to see what they can get away with. And at this point, it looks like, since there hasn't been any consequences, I don't really, I've often wondered what exactly the Russians or the Syrians can actually do without provoking, a larger conflict with the Americans, as far as actually, retaliating on any level. The Syrians used to say that they would retaliate at some point in the future for all these strikes, but that's never come to pass.
Yeah. Well,